Can you see? Okay, good. All right, here we go.
Dr.
Here.
Kaba,
Hey,
hotel.
I'm getting this technology down, brother. I'm
Hey,
working at it. Thank you, my brother Caleb.
no, thank you, thank you. First time today, and you already got it, so we're good.
All right, sounds good, brother, man.
Yes,
I
sir.
got it. I'm learning, man.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
typewriter generation, brother.
And look,
You know, when I say cut and paste, I mean scissors and glue.
old school. Yes, sir. There's no problem with
So
that.
I appreciate this generation introducing me to this new technology, brother. It's phenomenal, and I thank you for this opportunity to be here with you and for the audience. So,
Likewise,
we,
likewise, Elder.
man, we're
Likewise.
ready to get busy, brother.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. Dr. Kaba, from talking on the phone, you talking about the TWA people, that was very interesting. And have you back on the platform, being able to talk at length, it is an honor. And from seeing the PowerPoint presentation that you sent me, it was powerful. I read it. And one quote that actually stood out to me said, to understand the mentality behind African languages, we must again go back to the world's first people, the TWA, the authors of the world's first language. I had no idea about
Yes.
that. If you can you please break that down for us?
Well, you know, let me just take you back, just looking at the human family, because last time we talked about the origins of life in Africa, I believe. So building on that, let's just briefly go back and realize that according to Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, the great Senegalese scholar, there are 6 different human beings, types of human beings that went through a metamorphosis. And that while there are many intermediary human beings between these 6, Dr. Diop breaks it down real smooth into 6 levels, 6 people that grew out of each other. Nothing came new. For instance, there are 2 different sections of the human family. There is the first 2 groups that are known as the Australopithecines. And then you have 4 that are looked upon as the homoli. So let's go back to the beginning. The very first human, well, let me just take you back for a moment and realize that gorillas, okay, now here's something that folk get, you know, they get twisted with because they have a problem. 99.9% of everything that a gorilla has, in the place that he and she has it, it's the same in human beings. There is a difference. There's a morphological body type difference, and there's a phenotypical difference, a physical look difference. That's true. But bone for bone, muscle for muscle, there is no difference between apes and humans. To take that to the next level, when you go into the Virunga Mountains, which is in around Rwanda and Buganda, in Central Africa, all gorillas come from that area. That's where they come from.
Wow.
You have the type of gorilla that went up into the mountains of the Virunga. They are known as the silverback or the mountain gorillas. Then you have the gorillas who are spanned out east. They're known as the eastern lowland gorillas. And then you have the ones that went west, and they're known as the western lowland gorillas. In this same general Great Lakes region, you have the birth of the African, the human family. Now, I know people get it, you know, they have a problem. But you see, you know, gorillas don't necessarily want to be identified with us either, considering how we're acting.
Right.
Because gorilla will tell you in a minute, look, you don't even know what to eat. Because I'm vegetarian. I don't know about you. I may eat a couple ants and roaches here or there, but you put through a burger, if you threw a Big Mac into my cage, I would take off the lettuce and throw everything back at you and wipe off the mayonnaise. So we have to respect where we come from. And I understand and respect the relationship that we have as a human family. And so you have this eastern lowland and western lowland, and then you have the mountain gorilla. In the same vicinity, you have the human family. Now, what's going to happen is that apes and humans Humans did not evolve out of apes, nor did apes evolve out of humans. However, apes and humans have a common ancestor.
Right.
Some people call it Ramapithecus. I don't care what you call it. What I care about is that you understand that there is a common ancestor that connects the ape, the gorilla, the chimpanzee with the human family. What's going to happen up in the tree, because you're dealing with a very serious, dense forest that are there. And what's going to happen is that life is going to be very prosperous for the tree dwellers. There's going to come a time, Brother Caleb and family, where for whatever reason, maybe looking for food, maybe they got kicked out the tree, whatever reason, some of the Ramapithecus, some of the common ancestors came down onto the land and no longer was up in the trees. They were down on the land now. And so they had to create a life system that was prosperous for them on the land, in the savannah, which is in the Great Lakes region, the countries we today call Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Central Africa, and South Africa. In the specific area, what I shared with you, my brother, was the Aturi Forest.
Right.
A very thick forest. And I gave different pictures of the Aturi Forest for us to get a sense. I also believe I sent you pictures of what the Twa look like. Yep. Now, family, I know that we may not like the pictures being with peoples of European descent. But the reason why, Brother Caleb, I included those pictures was for you and for those that saw it to get a sense of the size of these human beings. They are the Twa Mbuti, Moesha. We call them the Khoisan in South Africa, but they are derogatorily called pygmies. These are individuals who are our family. They are who every human being came from, period. No conversation. Science has told us this. And so this general region, and there is writing amongst the Kemites and the Cushites that say, we came from the foothills of the mountains of the moon, where our god Hapi dwells. Now, Hapi is a symbol that is at Kilimanjaro. The mountains of the moon, Kilimanjaro, means mountains of the moon. And Rwenzori in Uganda and in Central Africa means mountains of the moon. So it's not like they took it out of place. This is carved in our writing and written on papyrus more than one time. So the entities that went down on the ground, what happened, there was a blessing. Because we moved into what is called in geology the Pleistocene area, the Pleistocene era. The Pleistocene brought in a warming trend onto the planet, just like what we're going through now happened a couple million years ago in Africa. And had it not been for that change in weather, humans might not have come into existence, because while the earth was, particularly Africa, was flourishing in forest, that was good for the tree dwellers, but it wasn't good for the grassland dwellers. But when the drying came, it started to create and kill off a lot of the forest. So living in the tree became a hazard, and living on the ground became an advantage. And out of all of these concepts, this entity that was on the ground began to create a life system that would allow him and her to survive. Unlike tree life, land life began what we call the hunting and gathering, because while you're on the ground, you're looking for food. Yeah. And so you start to hunt, you start to gather. You gather fruits and berries and things like that, and you hunt animals, small animals. So this is what's going to happen to the human family. But now let me take you back to the 6 forms. The first human form down on the ground that begins to develop human-like qualities is called Australopithecus Robustus. Very robust, big, thick, leaned over. Very much like the Ramapithecus, very much like the tree dweller. But they were changing. They were transforming themselves. Now, here's what I'm saying. Only the best of the best could have survived. And so the very best of Australopithecus robustus transformed into the second form of human being, which is Australopithecus gracile. Gracile meaning graceful, a much more slender body, being able to move through the forest with better agility. They're developing their brains, they're developing their thinking process. They've been on the ground for a couple million years now, because I'm not talking about overnight, I'm talking about millions of years. Mm. And so what begins to happen is that those that can adapt transform into Australopithecus gracile. Mm. Those that cannot adapt die off. Wow. Here's my point. It's not the strongest that survive. And it's not the survival of the fittest. The humans and the animals that survive to move into the future are the ones that can adapt to the new world order. Mm. You have to be able to adapt. Because of the drying out of the arboreal or the tree life, the ground dwellers took advantage and were able to do things that the arboreal or the tree dwelling, what we call ape or gorilla, could not do. And so that Australopithecus gracile, being able to adapt, began to think better because they ate better. As they ate better, they thought better. And one of the things that nature helped us is that there came a point in time when plants and flora and fruits began to create a phenomenal color. The human eyesight looking at the fruit began to understand that's edible, that's not edible. Of course, some of them ate things that couldn't be eaten and they died. Mm. That sent a word to the community, don't touch that. Mm. See, we don't even know that right now. We're eating stuff that should not go in our mouth. We're eating stuff today that we don't even have the enzymes to be able to digest. That's where we are in our eating pattern now. Back in the day, we may look at them and say we don't want to be identified, but they had sense enough to know what to eat and what not to eat. And particularly when they saw somebody die from it, they said, I don't think I want to eat that. No. Mm. So Australopithecus gracile is eating better, thinking better, doing better. And so they transform. But they transform to a point where they learn something very important. What they learn as hunter and gatherer is they're now beginning to create tools. Tools. Homo habilis is known as the human of ability, the tool maker. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. These are going to become the people that are going to introduce agricultural science. And in developing agricultural science, they're going to study it from a perspective that is determinative in what they're doing. Here's what I'm talking about. My favorite food in the world, no matter what anybody say, and I know a lot of people, Brother Caleb, try to make in front of black folk, but I'm going to tell you something. The most perfect food to eat is watermelon. Mm. And I loves my watermelon. It has everything that you need. Mm. It has the water. It has the flesh. Mm. It has the nutrients and the proteins. Don't let nobody embarrass you where they make you think that watermelon is black people food. It is black people food. That's why we here, because we were the first ones to eat it. Because watermelon don't grow up in Europe. And it don't grow in Asia. That's science. That's not personal. And so imagine eating watermelon. Now you're back in those days now. You're not thinking like we are now. We are at another level of sophistication and wisdom and knowledge. I'm talking about when you're first figuring out what's around you, almost like you're at an infant stage. You know how infants are? Infants one day will become full bloom, brilliant humans. But when you're an infant, there's certain things you just don't know. It's not that you don't have the capacity to know. It's that your development isn't there. And that's where Homo habilis was. But Homo habilis began to eat that watermelon, and they began to spit the seeds. And they looked down on the ground, and they began to realize, wait a minute, where I spit that seed, a whole bunch of watermelons came up. And so they began to realize the seed is what gives birth to the fruits and to the foods that we're eating. I like that. So they began to purposely spit the seeds in certain places where they knew that they could grow watermelon. But then all of a sudden they started to think, see, because they're eating better now, they're thinking better. Now they begin to say, as scientists, now these are scientists, they are as genius in their time as we are today. All the great things we do today, we then had that same genius on our level. So these African men and women, scientists, said, you know, I could save a lot of time if I put a hole in the ground and put the seed in there. It would save time. Because I notice when I spit the seed, it's on the top layer of the earth, but it takes time for the earth to pull that seed down. So what happens if I take my finger and put a hole in the ground? I'll put the seed in, and then it'll grow. And then, again, thousands of years, maybe millions, Homo habilis said, yeah, but you know something? My back hurt. I keep having to bend over to put the hole in the ground. My finger hurt. So suppose I took a stick and just put holes in the ground and put the seed in, it would save my finger. So that's what they did. They started using a stick. This is the tool maker now. Because now he's going outside of himself to supply the ability to create a society. The stick is technology. We see all these other forms of technology out here, but the technology that we're talking about right now comes from a stick. That was massive genius at that time. So they put the stick in the ground, they put it in there. Then they said, but my back still hurt. So let me take a longer stick. And this way I'll just walk upright or try to walk upright, but I'll put the hole in the ground and put the seed in. It worked. I said, wow, look at this watermelon patch. I got all the watermelons in the world. All the foods, everything is growing because I'm saving time by putting a hole in the ground. They said, yeah. But suppose I attached 3 sticks to 1 stick. Then I could make 3 holes. And then they said, okay. But suppose instead of me making holes, suppose I just dragged it along the ground. And then my children can put the seeds in the ground. That way it saved me from having to do it. They just follow behind me and just throw all the watermelon seeds in the ground. I said, wow, that's good. But hold on a minute now. Suppose I attach this stick to a cow.
Right.
That is the domestication of animals. This is only African people here. Ain't no other human being on the planet. And the only human being is the Twa Mbuti people right now. Ain't no Cushites. There are no Kemites. The Twa Mbuti, the short-statured people. Wow. They say, wow, that makes sense. This is Homo habilis is now developing themselves. And then they did that in other phases of life, not just in terms of agriculture. They began to see around them, they could use nature to their betterment. It could save them a job, and they would be able to develop the type of civilization that they wanted to create.
Wow.
Then Homo habilis, eating good and thinking good, because they were eating good, and because they were thinking good, they were improving their diet, their agricultural science, their technology. Then a miraculous thing happened. And that is that Homo habilis, the ones that could survive and change, because there were some folks that I'm still going to use the stick. I don't care. You can go ahead there, attach it to that cow out there. I don't care. Well, they didn't adapt to the new way, so they died out. It's just like right now. Okay, I told you I'm typewriter generation, but I ain't seen a typewriter in 20 years.
That's right.
So if I was still trying to be a typewriter, if I was still trying to do things in typewriter, you see how far behind I would be? I wouldn't even be here with you, Brother Caleb.
That's right.
If I was still trying to hold on to the past, you gotta move on. You got to be able to develop yourself through the new world order. Everything changes. The one thing that we know never changes is the fact that everything changes. And you must adapt to the new way. This is why this technology, you know, the first time you had to bring me through.
Yeah.
Okay. But once it gets past me, once it reaches me, can't pass me.
That's right.
But I'm excited about this new technology because, man, I can do. Let me tell you something, bruh. You see this right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, flash drive. You see this right here?
Yes, sir.
This is like a terabyte. I'm gonna tell you a story. I worked with Dr. Chancellor Williams in 1984 when he was in D.C.
Wow.
I came in contact with him when he had a rather bad thing happen to him. Whether it was a flood or whether it was a fire, he lost a lot of his work. He lost a lot of his work. He was devastated because this was his life's collection of all of his research and all the things he'd done. He lost it. And I often wonder, this is 1984. I look back and I wonder, what would have happened had he had a flash drive? What would have happened? My library now is on my tablet.
Wow.
Because I don't have no more room for books.
Yeah.
Okay. What would have happened if his books was on his Kindle? You see how we've advanced?
Yeah.
That's why I'm excited about this new technology, because it's not the technology that's important. It's how you use it. Now, if you're going to get on like what you're doing to bring information to the community, okay, that's phenomenal. But if somebody get on to pass gossip and talk about people and make them feel all, you know, sad or whatever, they're not using technology the wrong way. It's not what it is that's important, it's how you use it. Just like I told you, a tool, every tool is a weapon and every weapon is a tool. It's according to how you use it that makes it a tool or a weapon. You know, you can have a pen. A pen is a powerful piece of work. It has emancipated people. They say the pen is mightier than the sword. But if I took this pen and stuck somebody with it, it's like it's a sword.
Right.
Although it's a tool, it can also be a weapon. You could also take a weapon and make it a tool. Like you take a machete and you cut off the top of a coconut and you drink that coconut water, that's a tool. Yeah. So we have to understand, and this is what our ancestors were talking about. Homo habilis, the human of ability, is going to get to a point where they're going to do something miraculous. They're going to stand up erect. They're going to stand up. Up until now, these first three forms of human were still hunched over, like their ancestors in the tree. But this one, this Homo habilis, is going to begin to stand erect. Something's going to happen in the human body that is going to send them into a whole nother dimension of existence. Because first of all, what's going to happen when you stand erect is that when you're hunched over, you create cataracts in your body. You create places like in your knee or at the bottom of your foot, or when you're reaching over in your stomach area, you're bending over. Therefore, you're bending the tubes of your liquid systems and your hormones. Think about what I'm saying. When you're hunched over and you're looking up like this, there's a place in the back of your head that's an opening. It's called the Foramen Magnum. Wow. Foramen Magnum. See, actually, I got to spell, brother. I'm a teacher.
Yes, sir. I understand.
And I know if I'm throwing out words that people may never have heard, I want to put the spelling there so you can research this. Don't believe me. Research this for yourself, particularly the younger brothers and sisters. Research this family. Because this is going to liberate you. This is going to liberate your mind. Every time you get up and go outside your building, you're going to know you got it going on. Mm. But not only are you going to know you got it on, you're going to know how you got it on. But more importantly, you got to know what to do with what you got going on. To change your life, your family's life, your community's life, and America. Mm. And the world. Mm. So when this human stood up erect, let me explain it like you have a water hose. You attach it to the water faucet. You turn the water on, but then you bend it. Mm. What's going to happen to the water? It's going to spurt out. Yeah. Okay, but if you straighten it out, the water come out flow free. Come out. So when we stood up, our blood system changed because our circulatory system was able to get that oxygen to the body, particularly to the brain, get it moving in a really great way. It changed the direction because you see, your heart don't beat the blood. Mm. Your blood beats your heart. Mm. You don't die when your heart stops. You die when your blood stops circulating, which stops your heart. It's just science. But you got to Africanize it because these folk don't know what they're talking about, Brother Caleb. And this is what concerns me. We're following someone off the precipice. Mm. They don't know what they're talking about. Wow. Wow. So, Homo erectus stands up straight, but not just that. Something happens in the brain. This foramen magnum that I told you about, that opening where your entire system comes down, your central nervous system and all of your spinal cord, it's going through. When your head is up, when you're leaning down, it acts as an interrupter of the smooth sailing of the cerebral spinal fluid. But once the human stood up straight, and that started going on, it opened up what we call the ventricular system. The ventricular system is in your limbic system of the brain, which is the second part of your first part of your brain is your brain stem. Out of the brain stem came your limbic system. Out of your limbic system came your cerebral cortex. See, now, this is what I'm talking about, our knowledge and wisdom, because I haven't used the word Africa much in talking about this, but everything I'm talking about is African. You don't have to use the word Africa to be African because everything is African anyway. And so what began to happen is that as that body began to open up and began to, that free flow of liquids, what began to happen is a change in the structure of the way in which the human thought. And as the human thought, the brain structure changed, and what was a slanted forehead began to push forward in its thinking. You know how when you think and studying, you feel like you get a headache? Well, that's like when you lift weights. You know, when you're thinking, that's like lifting weights. Your brain is a muscle. Mm. And when you're thinking, that's throbbing constantly, and you're creating indentations in your brain. And what happened along with the free flow of the liquids is that when a human is leaned over like this, normally you're looking down, sometimes you're looking here, but when you stood up straight, you looked out. And when you looked out, that was the creation of a psychological future. You began to think about the future because you could see it out there. So instead of just saying, I'm going step by step, you said, I'm going over there. When you said that in your mind, you then moved from where you were into the future, which created future thinking, which is a breakthrough in intellect. So African people did this. Ain't nobody else on the planet but African people, Twa and Mbuti. This is why I say we have to know the Twa and Mbuti. We talk about the Twa and Mbuti, but we don't know the Twa and Mbuti. Now, this is going to be who becomes the Twa and Mbuti, because they're still working on it. Because out of this Homo erectus, and out of this thinking process, out of this hunter-gatherer and agricultural and technological society, going to be a change. Homo erectus now is going to transform into Homo sapiens, the fifth form. Homo sapien is thinking human. Sapien, Homo sapien means thinking human. They're going to do their thing. Great things are going to happen. It's powerful. Wow, fantastic. But now Homo sapiens is going to become Homo sapiens sapien, which is the creative thinker. And for over millions of years, this Homo sapiens is going to exist. This is who Lucy is. This is who Artie is. All these early humans that you're talking about, this is the early days of Homo sapiens sapien. But then, Homo sapiens sapien is going to transform, continue to transform, come to a higher level of thinking, and then they're going to go back to agriculture. And they're going to say, okay, when I put that seed in the ground, that's like when a man plants his seed in a woman. He said, and then inside the earth, that seed begins to grow like the seed in the womb of my woman. She's going to say, okay, at some point, the flower, the fruit, whatever comes up out the earth, like the baby come out my body. That fruit, that plant is going to grow like my baby. She's going to say, that fruit is going to age, if it's not eaten, like my baby. That plant is going to die one day like my baby. But that plant in the next season is going to grow again. And she said, just like that plant resurrects himself, so too will my baby. That was the birth of spirituality. That's how we developed the concept of a creator, was through botany, because it was evidence of truths that were seen. That's how spirituality and religions came into existence, because at the corner of every religion is the concept of, if you live a good life, you will resurrect yourself and present yourself to the creator of all. And that's what the Homo sapiens sapiens did through the Twa Mbuti, because it was through agriculture that they looked at the earth and they looked up in the heavens and they said, as above, so below. And then out of this relationship of as above, so below, they created a technological advancement, because now the Twa people are going to continue to grow. They're going to continue to transform themselves, and the Twa are going to become the Kushites. You can't understand the Kushites if you don't understand the Twa. Not just that, but there were Twa people in Kush at the same time that Kush existed. And then the Kushites are going to move into Kemet or Egypt, and they are going to develop the technology that's going to build the pyramids, but it's the Twa Mbuti that's going to actually do it. The Twa Mbuti still exists today. They are still amongst us. In fact, I still think Sammy Davis Jr. was a Twa. Wow. And when I say that, I mean because of his size, right, because his diminutive body, that's Twa. Twa are not midgets or dwarfs. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I just want to say it so we understand. Little people. They're not quite little people. Twa Mbuti are little people. But you notice sometimes when you have a person of very short stature, we call them dwarfs, we call them midgets. I don't like those words, but I'm going to use them because normally what you'll notice is that they either have an adult head and a very small body, or they may have a particular part of their body that's adult, but the other part of the body is child. Twa Mbuti not like that. Twa Mbuti are a perfectly sculptured human being that just happens to be 3'8". Wow. And the way you know that is to measure from your navel to the top of your head should be equidistant from your navel to the soles of your feet. Wow. And so the Twa and Mbuti are not dwarf. They are definitely not pygmies, because that's how they got the name. The missionaries called them my little pigs. And all of a sudden they turned the word around. They said, okay, I won't call them my little pigs. What I'll do is I'll put the my at the end, change the I to Y, and call them pygmy. Pygmy is a derogatory term, but that's the term that we're used to. So I'm using it only so that you know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Masauri is a word from Twa, is where the word Ma'at comes from. Ma'at is the guiding force of the cosmic universe. Truth, justice, balance, harmony, order, arrangement, reciprocity. What goes around comes around. And so the concept that we're dealing with here and what we're attempting to do is to go back in time. But family, I'm not just telling you this to go back. I'm telling you this like a slingshot. I'm telling it to you like when you have a slingshot and you pull that object back, you're not pulling that object back to go back. You're pulling the object back to go forward. And the further back you go, the further forward you'll project whatever's in that sling. So I want you to take your mind, and I want you to allow me to take that slingshot back into the Twa and Mbuti, because to understand who you are, we get real happy with the Kemites. I understand that. Beautiful place. Did a lot of great things. But that greatness came out of inner Africa. Kemet was the mouthpiece, but inner Africa was the brain. And every form of advanced development that you see in this civilization, including this phone and the computers and everything else, you can see remnants of it in its earliest beginnings in Africa before anyone else existed on this planet. And so it becomes important. We're still on 17th of March. You all know that you celebrated March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. You all know that there's a little leprechaun, color green, that tells you to follow the rainbow, and at the end of the rainbow is a pot of gold. But sure, Ireland ain't got no gold, so right, where they get the gold from?
Right.
Okay. The leprechaun is the Twa and Mbuti because they were the first people in Ireland and UK. Mm. And St. Patrick does not represent an actual person. St. Patrick represents the European male stepping on the black snake. The black snake is the feminine, the black African female that had gone into Europe and developed a society with her man. Some people call them the Druids. There's a lot of names you can call. I call them Twa and Mbuti, because this is who you're dealing with right now. And so as you're beginning to look at this, you see, okay, now why is it green? Okay, well, what's going to happen on Saturday? Spring. Four-leaf clover, green. That's a Asar. That's the Asarian drama. That's the African king in his botanical form, green, representing what? What we just talked about, resurrection. Resurrection, the symbol for resurrection, the color for resurrection is green. Sir. And St. Patrick represents the European male that stomps out the African female's power in Europe, and that's why his name is called Saint Patriarch. Come on, where do you think Patrick came from?
Right.
He didn't exist. What existed was the stamping out of African rule in Ireland, UK, including Wales and Scotland. And I ask you, please don't believe me. Just read the book by David McRitchie, Modern and Ancient Britons. Don't believe me. I challenge us. Don't just believe people. Study what they're telling you. Mm. If they give you books, reference those books. If they spell Foramen Magnum for you and they tell you that's what it is, look up the word. See if what they're telling you it is, it is. Because people be talking a lot of stuff that, well, if you research it, it ain't nothing what he said.
That's right.
And so what I'm looking to is to understand what it is that we're experiencing. And it's just, you know, last night I heard that my brother Rizza Islam was going to be Song of a Nation, was going to be on a TV show. I heard. And so I said, well, let me turn my brother on. Much respect, much regards to my brother Rizza Islam for all the great work that he's doing, representing well. The brother did a great job. But at the same time, they talked about Nick Cannon.
Mm.
And my thing was, I did an Instagram live today where I was talking, because I wasn't planning on talking about it. It's just that I wanted to see my brother Rizza that I tuned into the show, because I got that on DVR. I watch it when I can. But when I heard the brother was on, I said, let me watch it. So I DVR'd it and watched it. But then I saw Nick Cannon. So what I'm talking to you about tonight, Brother Caleb, I wasn't expecting to talk about.
Mm.
But we got to get some things clear.
Yes, sir.
Because Africans that first left Africa, we know that life started in Africa for the simple fact that the first three forms of humans, the Australopithecus Robustus, the Australopithecus gracile, and Homo habilis, can only be found in Africa. And they outdate all other archaeological finds of humanity by millions of years. The first human that's going to leave Africa is going to be Homo erectus. And then Homo sapien will leave. And then Homo sapiens sapien will leave. There'll be many that remain. There'll be many that leave. One of the first places where Africans left the African continent was in the Horn of Africa, going straight to Yemen. On some days, you could walk across from the east coast of Africa to the west coast of Saudi Arabia. You could walk across. That was one of the first roads that Africans took out of Africa. But some of them went straight up through Kemet and went into what we call Asia, but went into what we today call Israel.
Mm.
But the day before yesterday, we called it Palestine. But the day before that, we called it Canaan. It was the land of Africans.
Mm.
And the archaeological evidence that Sheikh Anta Diop and other archaeologists give us of the presence of this African-only organic living human, it's called the Natufian. N-A-T-U-F-I-A-N, Natufian. And then came Indo-Europeans out of the mountains about 2000 BC, about 4,000 years ago. Came up out the mountains, and these are nothing but barbarians. See that guy that was in the White House with them horns on his head?
Yep.
That's what they look like. They were called the devils of Manzandaran. In the ancient world, they were called the devils of Manzandaran.
Wow.
Don't believe me? Read a book written by Paul Lawrence Guthrie. It's called The Making of the White Man.
Mm.
Okay, and he goes into ancient texts to talk about what they were saying about these uncouth barbarians, savages coming out of the mountains of the Himalayas and the Caucasus, coming down and wreak havoc on the black people in the southern lands, in Mesopotamia, you know, in Sumeria, just came in and just did damage to them because they had nothing. They still don't have anything. That's why they did what they did on January 6th. They don't have anything. All they have, you know, I've always believed, Dr. Ben told us, the only thing that Indo-Europeans created was the Xerox machine in the patent office.
Mm.
Because they took everybody's idea and put their name on it.
That's right.
And that's just a reality. But they came down and they did damage. There's people such as the Gutayans. You know, we could go through the names of the different peoples that these Indo-Europeans were called. They created these savage groups of packs of dogs that, you know, and when I say dog, I'm talking about them, two-legged dogs. And they wreaked havoc on the melanated people of the South. And a group of them crossed over And they came into this black land that we call Canaan, or Ka-Nun. Ka meaning spirit, Nun meaning the origins of the waters from whence you come. So it's the spirit of your origins. Ka-Nun. We call it Canaan. And then out of this Canaan, my goodness, they wreaked havoc on these Africans and killed them. And those that they did not kill, they mixed with. Today we call these people the Palestinians. This is why I'm going to tell us, be careful whose side you go on in this war. Sometimes black folk got to step back and mind their business.
That's right. That's right.
Because you shall reap what you sow. And what the Philistines did to the Africans is what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians. You shall reap what you sow. Will go around, come around. And so the conversation that we should be having is, I have only honor and respect for every religion. It doesn't. When I wrote my book, Spirituality Before Religions, my brother Caleb, I did not mention one religion in the book. I've got a bibliography in the back, but I didn't mention one religion in the book because I did not want to in any way make it seem like I was trying to denigrate another religion, because I know that by reading the books, by the Quran, the surahs of the Quran and the Rig Veda, you can go east, look at Confucius, you can go to Zoroastrianism, you can go to agnostic and atheism, Christianity, Judaism, if you want to call it that. I've seen in the walls of Egypt myself. I've read in the papyri in my research. So if I put a religion down, I'm putting African thought down. I don't have a problem with the scripture of any religion. I have a problem with the interpretation of that religion. Because sitting up in the Abrahamic religion is based deep inside of it what we call the curse of Ham. Yeah. Be you Jewish, be it Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, you have written in those books, rewritten, because it wasn't in the original book of Islam, because Islam comes out of the mountains of Ethiopia. And the very base of that language comes from a brother by the name of Antara, who was a poet and gave what we call Arabic. I call it Afrabic, because you can't be Arab and not be African. That's what make you Arab. Remember, they came in and mixed with the African people. Yeah. And so I don't have a problem with any religions. I have a problem with people who do inappropriate things, and then when you attack them, they hold their religion up as a shield and claim you're attacking their religion. I'm not attacking your religion. I'm attacking your inappropriate behavior, which is white supremacist. So don't play that game with me, because I have nothing but respect for the faith systems of the world. In fact, I'm all of them. People say, man, you're talking spirituality. What religion are you? You Christian? Yeah, I'm Christian. You Jewish? Yeah, I'm Jewish. I'm agnostic, I'm atheist, I'm Zoroastrian, I'm Muslim, I'm everything, because I'm an African and everything came from Africa. So I don't have to subscribe to a religion when I'm a spiritual person and I adapt to them all. Science, brother Caleb. And so when we're looking at this, we must not attack religions. Now, I have a problem with some of the contradictions, you know, because at one point they say eye for eye and tooth for tooth. And then the other, they say, revengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Now, explain that to me. Yeah. Maybe it's just that you want to adapt yourself to whatever you feel. When it's time for eye for an eye, you do eye for an eye. But when it's on you, you say, oh, no, don't judge me. Revenge is mine, saith the Lord. Quite not, you know. So I see some contradictions here. But I see the writings on the walls. And I know they come from Africa. And if people acted the way their holy book told them to act, this would be a wonderful world. But they don't act like that. You know, think of Christ. This was a poor brother. If I were looking for Christ today, I'd go under a bridge.
Mm.
I would go to a shelter to find Jesus today. This was a poor brother. See, when you study scripture and you're searching for answers, and when you're African, you got to be careful. But when you're searching for answers, you go into these faith systems and you begin to study them. And you realize in all the scripture I ever read in the New Testament, I never heard Jesus say he going home. Mm. Brother ain't had a home. There were times that this brother was walking and he broke or lost his sandal. Brother used to walk the earth with one sandal. Brother would go into the desert and fast for 40 days and 40 nights. This is the story now. This is the metaphor. Yeah. I don't take this literal, but I understand the story. And he comes out of the desert and one of his students meets him at the desert with a cool glass of water. And Jesus looks off to the side and see a child thirsty. He said, "Now give the water to the child." Who do that today? If everybody acted like that, do you know what world we'd be living in? Wow, what a wonderful place that would be. And the same thing goes with every other religion who hasn't adapted Indo-European mentality. Because I don't care if you're Muslim, I don't care if you're Jewish, I don't care if you're Christian or Confucius. To African people, the woman and the man are equal. There's no argument about that, Brother Caleb. We are astute enough to know the difference between men and women. We know that there is a function that women perform through the female energy, and there is a function for men to be able to perform in the male energy. We understand that, and we know that. Together, we can move it forward. There's a brother, brilliant brother, Dr. Edwin Nichols. He's a clinical psychiatrist. I encourage people, check out Dr. Edwin Nichols, Nichols. He's had a few interviews with my good brother, Philippe Matthews, when he talks about dichotomous logic. You see, we got to understand dichotomous logic. Let me tell you what dichotomous logic is. This is what Dr. Nichols tells us. Okay. Same city, same place. You have peaceful protesters that are attacked by violent police. Mm. That's one instance. Now you have violent protesters that attack peaceful police. There's something wrong with that. There is something very wrong with that. And yet they can justify both cases, just come out their mouth. One of the senators the other day said, "Oh, I knew these people coming in here. These were peaceful and they loved their country and they would never hurt the police. Forget about the 5 that were hurt and the 1 that was killed, and forget about the 100 and something that were maimed or something, and people sticking American flag poles up in their chest. Okay, I wasn't afraid of them. But if they had been Black Lives Matter, then I would have been concerned." That is dichotomous logic. And as African folk, we have to understand that we operate with dichotomous logic. I'll give you another example. Very unfortunate incident in Georgia. The killing of 8 people by a person of European descent. They happen to all, 6 they say is Asian and 2 they haven't identified. So I would imagine that it's an attack on Asian people. And I'm sure he's an incel, which is an involuntary celibate, which a lot of them are. That's why they be shooting everybody up, because they don't even know where their manhood is. They don't even know how to talk to a woman. They don't even know how to relate to a woman. And so that's why they're very heavily into demeaning their women. But the concept is, when you look at what it is that they're doing, the policeman that arrested him say, the reason why he shot them, it's not funny, family. It's not funny at all. It's ludicrous. Ludicrous is when something is so ridiculous, it appears funny.
Yeah.
But it's not funny. He said that the boy was having a bad day. Now, you know what they would say about a brother and what they've said about a brother that did less than that. Bad day? No. Black folk have had 400 years of bad days. We don't do that. We do other things. There could be a drive-by. We do kill each other, but there's always a reason. I'm not making it right. Please understand that. I'm not making it right. But there is something that you mess with my boy, you mess with my woman, you mess with my family, you come at me this way, I'm going to kill you. Like the brother that went to the movies. And he's sitting in the movie. Man, he's been waiting to see this movie for a long time. He's watching the movie. And there's a brother in front of him that keeps giving away the movie.
Yeah.
Spoiler alerts. And the brother say, yo, bruh, hey, man, I paid money to see this movie, man. Don't be telling me the story. I want to enjoy this. Maybe you saw it before. Be quiet, man. Let me see. Okay, but the brother keep going. The brother, what? He say, brother, you better stop. I told you before, stop. Brother keep talking. Brother say, I'm going to tell you one more time. Brother keep talking. Well, okay, the brother pull out a gun and shoot him. Not right. But when that brother went into the movie house, he was not planning on killing nobody. That came about because of instances. I am not excusing it. It is incorrect. And that brother did go to jail. But the point that I'm making is that when you have other students that will pull a fire alarm in Colorado, and as their fellow students come out the building, they're shooting them. That's premeditated. We don't think like that. No matter what we may do, as bad as it is, and it is not appropriate, there are reasons, but never excuses. We don't think like this. But in dichotomous logic, that policeman felt very comfortable saying he had a bad day. And that's why he killed 8 people. So as African folk, we got to check this out and see it for what it is and be able to scientifically, and science means knowledge, scient. We have to be able to scientifically measure what we're experiencing to come with the proper conclusion of what we're facing, to know who we're dealing with. You're dealing with a people, and I'm not speaking about everybody. I'm just going to put it out there. I don't speak in absolutes. But there is a mental deficiency in their spiritual growth of their pineal gland in the limbic system of their brain. In fact, it's calcified. This is why they act the way they act.
Wow.
And we just have to understand this and come to conclusions so that when we hear people say he had a bad day, we have to understand where they're coming from. You're crazy. In fact, you cray-cray. You're not even crazy. You cray-cray. Cray-cray is where you should have been institutionalized 10 years ago, and 6 of the last 10, you should have been medicated. Because you cray-cray. That's who we're dealing with. And we go to work with them every day. And they exhibit cray-cray behavior. Every day. Not all of them, but enough of them to know it runs in the family. And so as we move through this, Brother Caleb, we just have to stop some time and think about where we're headed. And I also want to tell, particularly our younger brothers and sisters, our millennials, it's going to be all right. Eventually, it's going to be all right. We got difficult days, but we're going to get through this. We've been through worse. And if we could go through that, we can definitely go through this. So just stay strong and keep on keeping on. And have as your motto, if it is to be, it's up to me. Because it ain't over till we win.
Yeah.
You know, ask not for who the bell tolls, because it tolls for thee. It's your time now. It's your generation. And whatever we can do to support you, I'm with you. Because you know, Brother Caleb, our conversations that are prepared for me to have this great second occasion with you and with our community. You know what it took to get to this point right here. Yeah. And from the beginning, when you told me what you were doing, I was with you, Brother Caleb. And I will always be with you for the work that you're doing. And I just pray that, and I know that you will continue to be able to do all the great things that you're doing. Because it's your generation that's going to break through. There's a different day out here, family, and I know it may not seem that way to you. But I was born 2 years before Emmett Till. I lived through the civil rights and the human rights movement. I was a cub in the Black Panther Party. I used to go to Nation of Islam meetings on 116th Street. I have spoken at various mosques around the country. Much respect for Minister Louis Farrakhan and Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. And I know we all got situations, I understand, okay? But family, I got to step back as an educator and look at what they're doing and judge them for what I see the benefit for our people is, and not for the personal things that people want to get into. And then I'm going to wrap this here, and then questions, answers, whatever you want to go to, Brother Caleb. I belong to a very unique group. It's a club, and I belong to it. And a lot of people say they belong to that club, but a lot of people don't. You're smiling, Brother Caleb, so I know you know where I'm headed. Yeah. The name of my club has a long title to it, so please excuse me while I have to give you the whole title. I belong to a club that's called I Mind My Own Damn Business. Not done yet, because the day I started minding my own damn business was the day I came to realize how much damn business I had to mind. Family, I don't understand how we could spend so much time in other people's business, because I know with what I'm doing, I pray for more hours in a day, more days in a week. I wish that I had more time to do what I do. I can't see how I could spend moments trying to get into other people's business. It's not that we don't put each other and keep each other in check, family. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we put ourselves in harm's way. We have to speak up in certain at certain times under certain situations. I understand that. But what I'm saying is that as I look at us talking and going through these processes, you see, Brother Caleb, down the road, we're not going to do it tonight, but down the road, I want to have a conversation about WAP. We're talking about it. Yeah. Everybody into it, but I want to talk about it. I want to go deep inside of it and analyze it from a perspective that allows us to step back into the cosmos and look at what's going on. Because you want to know something? And then I'm going to end here, because I know I'm going to have to end here for what I'm about to say. Because the way Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion break WAP down, hey, the governor of New York State just threw all the work he has done. Yeah. He was about to become a major contender for the presidency.
That's correct.
He gave all that up for WAP. Let's go to President Clinton. Yeah. He became the most powerful man in the world and was willing to give everything up for WAP. Listen to the words of WAP from another type of perspective. Men are born with 2 brains. Women are born with 2 brains. Men are born with a brain in their head and a brain in their reproductive organ. Women are born with a brain in the head and a brain in the heart. And most of the mistakes that men and women make is because they did not go through a rite of passage when they were in puberty. Because the rite to pass in the African community at puberty, when the young male spermatozoa became fertile enough to be able to impregnate a woman, and when a young lady began to go through her life cycle that she could bring forward a family, the community said, oh, whoa, let's wait a minute and let me, the brothers, let me take these brothers off somewhere. And the sisters said, let me take the sisters off somewhere, and we are going to have a brain transplant. The elder brothers facilitated the brain from the reproductive organ to be put in the brain of the head of the young men. The elder women were able to take the brain in the young girl's heart and put it in her head. In the world we're living in today, the greatest relationships that exist is when both the man and the woman has had a chance to have a brain transplant. Because if you don't have that brain transplant, chances are you're going to live your life utilizing the brain in your reproductive organ if you're a man. And chances are that if you haven't had a brain transplant, you're going to use the brain, I'm speaking to my sisters now, that come from the heart. Because most of the mistakes that humans make because they ain't had a brain transplant.